What if something as simple as walking could directly influence your hormone levels? It sounds almost too easy, but research suggests that every 1,000 steps you take each day may increase testosterone by around 7 ng per deciliter. Over time, that small change can add up in a meaningful way. However, there is an important detail that many people overlook. Not all walking creates the same effect. A slow, distracted stroll may bring relaxation, but it often fails to trigger the deeper biological responses needed for real hormonal improvement. The way you move, your pace, and even when you walk all play a role. This means that while walking has powerful potential, most people are not using it effectively. Understanding how to do it properly can turn a simple daily habit into a valuable tool for supporting long-term health and vitality. What happens to your body when you stop moving is far more serious than most people realize. In one controlled study, a group of healthy, active young men were asked to drastically reduce their daily movement to around 1,500 steps per day, similar to a typical sedentary routine. Nothing else changed. Their diet remained the same, their sleep stayed consistent, yet the results were striking. Within just 2 weeks, their bodies began to shift in ways that signaled declining health. Their insulin sensitivity dropped, meaning their bodies became less efficient at managing blood sugar. As a result, fat storage increased, especially around the midsection. But one of the most concerning changes was the sharp decline in testosterone levels. The body interpreted the lack of movement as a signal that high energy output and physical readiness were no longer necessary. In response, it began to conserve resources, reducing hormone production linked to strength, vitality, and recovery. This process happens faster than many expect. It does not take months or years, just a short period of inactivity can trigger noticeable changes. The connection between movement and hormone balance is deeply rooted in how the body prioritizes survival. When physical activity drops, the body shifts into a more energy-saving mode. It becomes more likely to store fat rather than burn it, and metabolic efficiency begins to decline. Over time, this creates a cycle where reduced activity leads to lower energy, and lower energy makes it harder to stay active. What makes this particularly important is how quickly these effects can develop. Many people assume that occasional inactivity will not have a major impact, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Even a brief period of reduced movement can begin to alter key biological systems. The body adapts rapidly, and unfortunately, it adapts in the direction of conserving rather than building. This highlights a simple but powerful truth. Consistent daily movement is not just beneficial, it is essential. The human body is designed to move regularly, and when that movement disappears, important systems begin to slow down. From metabolism to hormone regulation, the effects are interconnected. Understanding this can help explain why maintaining even a moderate level of daily activity plays such a critical role in supporting overall health and long-term balance. The good news is, your body is far more adaptable than you might think. Even after a period of inactivity, recovery can begin surprisingly quickly once movement is restored. In studies where participants returned to regular walking after being sedentary, their metabolic health started to improve within just a few days. Blood sugar control became more stable, energy levels began to rise, and most importantly, testosterone levels gradually moved back toward normal ranges. This shows that the body is constantly responding to signals from your daily habits. When you start moving again, even with simple activities like walking, you send a powerful message that energy, strength, and function are needed. The body responds by shifting out of its conservation mode and reactivating systems that support growth and balance. What makes this encouraging is that the recovery process does not require extreme effort. You do not need intense workouts or complicated routines. Consistent, moderate movement is enough to begin reversing many of the negative effects caused by inactivity. Step by step, your system adjusts, improving circulation, metabolism, and hormone production. This means it is never too late to make a change. Even small actions, repeated daily, can rebuild what was lost and support long-term health. The difference between a few thousand steps and a full day of movement may be larger than you expect. Research shows a clear gap when comparing people who walk less than 4,000 steps a day to those who reach over 8,000. Individuals in the lower range are far more likely to experience reduced testosterone levels, while those who stay active with higher step counts can lower that risk by up to 90%. This is not just a small improvement, it represents a major shift in how the body functions. With fewer than 4,000 steps, the body tends to slow down metabolically, conserve energy, and reduce hormone production. Blood flow becomes less efficient. Fat accumulation increases, and key systems begin to operate below their optimal level. In contrast, reaching or exceeding 8,000 steps sends a completely different signal. It tells the body that regular movement is part of daily life, encouraging better circulation, more efficient energy use, and a healthier hormonal environment. From a practical standpoint, this finding is powerful because it sets a clear and achievable target. You do not need extreme training or long hours in the gym. Simply increasing your daily movement, walking more throughout the day, choosing stairs, or adding short walks after meals can gradually move you into a range where your body operates more effectively. Over time, these small adjustments can create a meaningful difference in overall health and help maintain balanced testosterone levels. Your body is constantly making choices behind the scenes, and one of the most important battles happens between stress and hormone balance. When you experience ongoing stress, your body increases production of cortisol, often called the stress hormone. The key detail many people miss is that cortisol and testosterone are built from the same raw materials. Because these resources are limited, the body has to prioritize. This is known as the cortisol steal effect. When stress is high, the body diverts resources away from testosterone production to support immediate survival needs. In practical terms, this means that even if everything else seems normal, chronic stress alone can gradually lower testosterone levels. The body shifts into a defensive state, focusing on short-term survival rather than long-term growth, recovery, and vitality. Over time, this imbalance can affect energy, mood, and overall physical performance. This is where walking becomes surprisingly powerful. Unlike intense exercise, which can temporarily raise stress levels, steady and rhythmic walking helps calm the nervous system. As you walk, your breathing becomes more regular, your heart rate stabilizes, and your brain begins to interpret the environment as safe and controlled. This reduces cortisol production and allows the body to rebalance. When cortisol levels drop, those shared resources become available again, and the body can resume normal testosterone production. In this way, walking is not just physical activity, it is a signal that shifts your body out of stress mode and back into a state that supports strength, recovery, and long-term health. Not all body fat is the same, and some types can quietly interfere with your hormone balance. The fat stored deep around the abdomen, often called visceral fat, is especially active in ways many people do not expect. Instead of simply storing energy, it produces an enzyme known as aromatase. This enzyme has a direct effect on hormones by converting testosterone into estrogen. To understand this more clearly, imagine your body is filling a bucket with testosterone. Now picture a small hole at the bottom of that bucket. No matter how much you add, some of it slowly leaks out. In this case, aromatase acts like that hole, continuously reducing the amount of available testosterone. The more visceral fat present, the larger that leak becomes. Over time, this imbalance can affect energy levels, body composition, and overall well-being. This is where walking becomes a practical and effective strategy. During steady, moderate activity like walking, the body tends to rely more on fat as a fuel source rather than stored sugars. This makes it particularly useful for gradually reducing visceral fat. Unlike short bursts of intense exercise, which primarily burn quick energy, walking stays within a range that encourages the body to tap into these deeper fat stores. As visceral fat decreases, the activity of aromatase is reduced, helping to preserve more testosterone in the body. In simple terms, walking not only supports weight control, but also helps seal the leak, allowing your natural hormone levels to stabilize over time. What you do right after eating can have a direct impact on your hormones. After a meal, especially one high in carbohydrates, blood sugar levels rise quickly. In response, the body releases insulin to help move that glucose out of the bloodstream and into cells. While this is a normal process, frequent spikes in blood sugar and insulin can create an environment that suppresses testosterone production over time. Here is where a simple habit makes a difference. Walking after a meal helps your muscles actively use glucose as fuel. The large muscle groups in your legs contract repeatedly, acting like a sponge that soaks up excess sugar from the blood. This reduces the need for high insulin release and helps keep blood sugar levels more stable. When insulin levels remain controlled, the body receives a signal that its metabolic state is balanced and efficient. This supports healthier hormone function, including testosterone production. In contrast, consistently high insulin can interfere with this process and shift the body toward fat storage and lower energy output. The benefit of this approach is its simplicity. A short walk after meals does not require intense effort, yet it helps regulate key systems in the body. Over time, this small routine can contribute to better metabolic health and a more stable hormonal environment. Movement does more than improve your body, it can change how you feel and think. When you stay inactive for long periods, energy levels tend to drop, motivation fades, and even simple tasks can feel harder to start. This is closely linked to dopamine, a key chemical in the brain that drives motivation, focus, and the sense of reward. Low activity often leads to lower dopamine, creating a cycle where you feel less driven to move, and the lack of movement reinforces that feeling. Walking helps break this cycle. As you move, especially with purpose and consistency, your brain begins to release more dopamine and endorphins. This creates a subtle but noticeable lift in mood and mental clarity. Over time, this effect builds into what researchers often describe as a winner effect. When your body is active and engaged, it interprets that as a sign of progress and capability, reinforcing positive signals that support confidence and drive. This creates a powerful feedback loop. The more you move, the better you feel, and the better you feel, the more likely you are to keep moving. In this way, walking is not just physical activity, it becomes a simple tool to restore motivation, improve mindset, and support a more active and balanced lifestyle. How you walk matters just as much as how often you walk. Many people believe that any movement is enough, but small adjustments in speed, timing, and environment can significantly influence the results. To support hormone balance, the goal is not just to walk more, but to walk with intention. First, consider your pace. A relaxed stroll is helpful for general well-being, but for deeper benefits, a brisk pace is more effective. This means walking fast enough to slightly raise your heart rate and breathing, while still being able to speak in short sentences. This level of effort encourages fat use for energy without placing excessive stress on the body. Next is timing. One of the most practical strategies is to walk shortly after meals. As blood sugar begins to rise, light movement helps your muscles absorb glucose more efficiently, reducing the need for large insulin spikes. Even a short walk of 10 to 15 minutes after eating can make a noticeable difference when done consistently. Environment also plays a role. Walking outdoors provides added advantages compared to indoor movement. Natural light supports vitamin D production, which is linked to hormone health, while fresh air and changing scenery help reduce stress levels. Together, these factors create a more supportive internal environment. In daily life, this can be simple to apply. Short walks after meals, choosing stairs when possible, or setting small step goals throughout the day can gradually build into a sustainable routine. Over time, these consistent habits help create the conditions your body needs to maintain balance and long-term vitality.